So please join me in welcoming Chief Dave White.
Greetings, Earth creatures. Better move that down some. It is an honor to be here. I spent a lot of time in Minnesota now. Stay over here. I walked in the hotel bar last night and they said, Norm. Okay, perfect. It is grand to be here. In 2002, no? Great. In 2002, I was loaned to Senator Lugar and worked on the 2002 Farm Bill for the Republicans. 2008, Senator Harkin worked on the Farm Bill for the Democrats, so I'm just kind of a hired gun here. This is where I used to live. I was the state conservationist in Montana, and this was taken about 15 minutes from my house. You're on Forest Service property, and you're on the Hyalite Mountains, and what you're looking at is the Spanish Peaks. And then one day I got a call from Tom Vilsack, who was going to be the Secretary of Agriculture, and he asked me if I wanted to be the chief. And of course, I have a lot of friends, like you have a lot of friends. So I said, "Is this Scott?" If it is, it ain't funny. But he convinced me it was Tom Vilsack, and I said, yeah. So I talked to my spouse, and we decided to go for it. So it's a long drive from Montana to Washington, D.C., so we loaded up the car. We headed east on Highway 2, and I gave up that view, and now I get to look at this. Thousands of my happy commuters every morning. But to just give you a little background, SCS, then NRCS, started in this period of our nation's time, one of the worst environmental catastrophes. These Dorothea Lange haunting images from the Dust Bowl. This is Black Sunday, 1935. Area from Montana in the north to Texas in the south, enclosed by dust so thick visibility was limited to a few feet. And while the Dust Bowl was ravaging the Great Plains, King Cotton was working its magic down south. So we made a lot of progress over time. But this is Texas last fall, taken from a window of a Southwestern Airlines plane. This is dust storm coming into Lubbock. This is South Dakota, 2007. This can be any cropland field in Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And what's attached to the runoff there? Every dang thing we put on the field plus the sediment. And it collects in a place called the Mississippi River, and it runs down. And can you tell me what area this is? This Gulf of Mexico. What are the red areas? Right. Some of you said hypoxic, some said dead, some are politically correct, and some are honest. But if you have never, I'm sorry, this is messing up. But if you've never seen what the dead zone does, you get this nutrient-enriched water, it causes these huge algae blooms. They just suck the oxygen out of the water. And this is what you'll see under the surface. There's no oxygen for life. And what we're trying to do, and this is some of your precision ag stuff, is we started this Mississippi River Basin Initiative. And these are watersheds. We've got about 43 of them now with high nutrient runoff that we're working on. And there are people in this room who are involved in this. So you have firsthand knowledge. But I'm going to kind of merge this with Chesapeake Bay because we have very similar problems in the Bay. So I'm going to show you some stuff we're going to do in the Bay, or we are doing in the Bay. This is some technology. This sensor on the right fires 60 times a second, and it actually reads the chlorophyll level in the plant, and it can adjust the fertilizer rate once per second on the fly as you move across the field. So you heard the doctor today talk about right time, right place, right amount. This technology will also help us do that. Interesting thing here, this little pond catches the runoff from 4 poultry houses. And this cage here is filled with a waste product from steel manufacturing. This is steel slag. Dr. Josh McGrath from University of Maryland is working on this. What we're doing is the water from the runoff comes in. You see that little solar panel up there? It goes into the pan. sits in this pond and is diverted through these cages, and then we measure the water quality coming out. This steel slag just absorbs phosphorus like crazy. We can get 80–90% phosphorus removal from this. And then I was asking Dr. McGrath, I said, well, what do we do with it once, you know, it's chock full of phosphorus? He said, well, why don't we just throw it in the field? It's steel slag, it'll disintegrate anyway, so it might be pretty cool. This is another one. These look like bowling alleys. It's black plastic with wire mesh, and they're pumping water from a drainage ditch that's high phosphorus and nitrogen running across here, and this algae is growing. And this algae, if we can figure out what we can do with it, it could actually be used as a biofuel. So we can clean the water and also have a fuel source if we're successful. Also in the Chesapeake Bay, this is Carroll County, Maryland. This is right below a dairy lot. And this has become this. And we're also putting native flowering species in here for our pollinators. 1 out of every 3 bites you're taking today is necessary. A pollinator is involved in it. So we're doing stuff like this. No need to tell you what's in the foreground here. This is a Pennsylvania, becomes this. This is Carroll County, no, I'm sorry, this is Stanton, Virginia, another direct tributary to the bay. And this becomes this. Does anybody know what those white tubes are? Tree protect? No. We have so much money in these conservation programs. These are actually nuclear-powered cowpie methane flares. No, just in case there's somebody who graduated University of Wisconsin, those are tree protectors. Want to take you a little out to California now. This is a project that was really about 8 years old, but I thought it was incredibly interesting when you talk about precision conservation. You had about 84 ranchers with 250,000 acres, and all the streams had dried up. They were just, they were ephemeral anyway, but they're just dewatered. And they started put these rocks in to back up the water. 8 years later, it looks like that. Quite a difference. I just brought this up. I'm not going to have a lot of reading slides, but I just wanted to show you that conservation progress can be done in harmony with ag production. This is one of the producers. He's actually been able to increase his herd from 300 to 500. He went from feeding 300 tons of hay to no hay. And this is what his place looks like. I want to talk a little bit about soil health too, because one of the key components we often overlook is the soil. And these are some of the farmer innovators in this whole area where we're starting to look at our actual soil. How can we get more organic matter? How can we make it healthier? This soil is naked, hungry, thirsty, and running a fever. And you see stuff like that, that's not a good thing. This, if you look at this particular one, the organic matter that was in the soil, and after 17 years of soybean monoculture, you go from 0.3% to 1.6%. You've had a 62% reduction. This shows 2 different tillage methods, one with a cover crop and one without. This is from North Dakota, cover crop side by side here. If you see where there's no cover crop, you're going to have a lot of weed emergence earlier where the cover crop is suppressing it. So for the producer, they're not going to have to use as many of the inputs that they may have used before. This is an incredible one here. This is same area in North Dakota. They put 3 different types of cover crops, a turnip, a radish, and then a cocktail mix. They only got 1.8 inches of rain during this growing season. So you went from about 1,500 pounds to no pound, oh, I'm there, to over 2 tons on 1.8 inches of rain. There's something magic happening with these cocktail mixtures. Some of our agronomists are calling it rhizomatic engineering. We can really influence what's going on under the soil surface. This is way cool. Well, I mean, it's not cool that we're in a drought. It's cool what this one producer was able to do. This is 2011, the drought index. You see the darker area. Mark Brownlee's farm, he's a cow producer down there. There he is out in his field. And by the way, through his soil health efforts, these warm season grasses naturally regenerated. He didn't plant one of them. But during the drought, on the left, these are stunning. This was his neighbor's pasture, Mark's pasture. We can fix our problems. He actually had clover blooming during the height of this drought and what his neighbor had to deal with. Now, here's probably the best example I can give you on precision, well, not the best, but certainly one of my favorites. This is the sage grouse. Does anyone in here remember the spotted owl? When the spotted owl was listed, it virtually shut down logging in northwestern United States. All kinds of controversy came about after this. People would wear T-shirts. I love spotted owl. They taste like chicken. A lot of anger and what Paul said. People took their sides and they became entrenched. This bird is on the candidate list for Endangered Species Act. It has the same potential to be the next spotted owl, but it covers 10 times the geographic area. If this bird is listed, we have failed as a nation because it's going to shut down ranching as we know it in western United States. And it's also a landscape species. If you protect the sage grouse, you also help the mule deer, the elk, the antelope, and there's about ferruginous hawks, ground-burrowing owls. There's about 70 species up here that are dependent upon the sage grouse, the same type of ecosystem. There's one other species that isn't up here, but which is very close to my heart, and that's the American rancher, because I'd like to see those guys survive too. So this is the range. So we're going to start talking to the precision part here. This is where the bird is right now. There is no way we will have enough money or time ever to do all of this. But working with the various state agencies, the state fish and game agencies who are key partners out there, the Fish and Wildlife Service, another key partner, Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, working under the tutelage of Dr. Dave Noggle. He's our science advisor for this project. You look at these hot colors. These are the core areas. 75% of the remaining bird population are in the core areas. So we don't have to protect 100%. We can protect 25% and save 75% of the whole population. And it's not rocket science. This is a barbed wire fence. The is a communal bird. Their breeding grounds are called leks. And when the males come in there in the morning, they're really not thinking about barbed wire fences. And bird strikes are claiming a lot of birds. You'll see the bird laying on the back there. I hesitated about putting this next slide in, and I just want to warn you, if you're in the slight bit squeamish, just close your eyes. I'm going to show the next slide. It shows you what happens when a male sage grouse hits a barbed wire fence. And then close your eyes, and then I'll tell you when it's over and you can open them. So if you're squeamish, close your eyes. And what we're finding is, it's gone now. You can look. Is you have about 4 to 5 bird strikes per mile. And we also have another problem with raptors. You know, we have created places for these critters to live and prey on them where they didn't have before. And it's not rocket science to solve it. If we mark the fences according to this pattern, and you know what these markers are? Does anybody know what vinyl siding trim is? It's vinyl siding trim cut in a 3-inch thing and snapped over the wire. It's not real expensive. Put a nail in the fence post to prevent the raptors there. Last 2 years, 2 years alone, in these core areas, we've marked or removed 350 miles of fences. This is the equivalent of saving the entire male sage grouse population in Washington, North Dakota, South Dakota, Alberta, and Saskatchewan combined twice. We can bring them back. We can bring them back in harmony with ag production. And it's gone beyond us. The high schools in Wyoming are going out to farms now. This is the Johnson County future. They marked over 30,000 feet in one day for this ranchers using these little snap-on vinyl siding. We also know that a 2-inch increase in grass height will equate to a 10% increase in population growth. Right? We have the science to back it up. We have the science to back it up. Last year we put this practice on 1.3 million acres in 2 years. 2 years. That's about equivalent to the size of the state of Delaware. Conifer encroachment is another big sage grouse problem, and ranchers hate this as well too. These conifers come in, they suck up the water, they crowd out the native grasses and forbs, they cut them down. Last 2 years, over 105,000 acres conifers have been removed. and we're monitoring these sites, almost immediately the sage grouse are coming back. This is one that breaks my heart. This is eastern Montana. This is native sage, native rangeland being plowed up. This is probably going to go into dryland wheat. But we got some help there too. We've got the Grassland Reserve Program. This land is enrolled here. This is near the Mission Mountains. This particular guy, I love him. This guy's a little bit to the right of Czar Nicholas. But he's decided to grow buffalo, bison, and this ranch right here, I only put it in there because it's right next to Dave Letterman's ranch. But it's going to be doing this forever and ever and ever. So in the last couple of years in the sage grouse country, over 200,000 acres, permanent easements. This will be in grassland, it'll be in ranching forever. And it's all in these targeted core areas. We can bring them back, and we can bring them back in harmony with agricultural production. Last thing here on the sage grouse, up at the top is Saskatchewan. They have a small remnant population in the Grasslands National Park. And Dr. Nagel's been monitoring this population, and they did an overflight, and the birds are radio marked. They couldn't find them. They went up there was no beeps, there was nothing coming. And Nagel looks at his grad student and said, "Did you mark them?" Of course, the grad student's dying, "Yes, I did. I swear to God, I did. So they couldn't find any. So they're flying back, and they start hearing a faint beep. A faint beep. And so they tracked it. And it turns out this Canadian bird migrates down to Montana and overwinters on the Charles M. Russell National Wildlife Refuge. Nobody knew. It's the longest migratory path of sage grouse that we know of in the world. So what we're doing is, if you look at this little area, I don't know how to work this thing. Anyway, pretend there's a little red thing up there where those yellows are. That is private land that is under threat of conversion. And we're locking that down through Grassland Reserve and Farm and Ranchland Protection to really lock down the grass highway for these migratory birds. So we may have saved the Canadian sage grouse population. So if you know some Canadian, tell them, all right. So we're trying this concept on other species. We just announced this. We call it the Working Lands for Wildlife, and we chose 7 species: the sage grouse, the southwestern willow flycatcher, the lesser prairie chicken, the gopher tortoise, golden wing warbler, bog turtle, New England cottontail. Some of these species are listed, some are on the candidate list, some are close to be putting on the candidate list. And here's another, I'm showing you this, it's too early to show you any results. But the precision conservation is forcing us to do this. We're using a program called the Wildlife Habitat Incentives Program. The funding level went from 85 million to 50 this year. And we had to take some of that 50 to fund existing projects. We had about $34 million left. So instead of taking that $34 million and spreading it like a thin patina of margarine across the bread of our country, we're focusing it on these 7 species because we think we can have a critical mass to make a difference for these guys. One thing here, the golden wing warbler is going to be targeted in the Appalachians. We're also working with the American Chestnut Foundation. They have right now developed, remember that old poem, Under the Spreading Chestnut Tree? Chestnuts were destroyed, virtually destroyed by a blight. And there's not very many of them left, but they have been on a breeding program for 25 years. They now have an American chestnut that is 99.9% American. They took one gene that makes it resistant to the blight. So it's possible we could get chestnuts, because it's one of the favorite things for the warblers. And there's another thing in the Appalachian region. We have 1 million acres of reclaimed mine land, which are highly acidic. The chestnut loves acidic soils. So we can put these on the acidic soils on these reclaimed mine lands. Golden wing warblers love it. And the other thing that loves this is the Wild Turkey Federation. They're asking us, how can we help? Because the same habitat for the warbler is perfect for the turkey. The gopher tortoise would be detailing along with our efforts to restore the longleaf pine forest. This is California. This is the Central Valley, arguably the most productive ag region in the United States of America. Last I heard, something like 10% of all ag receipts were coming from California. This is not a low-lying cloud. This is smog. There is a methane concentration here that's like 8 times higher than what a human being should breathe. Everything literally goes into this valley, stays in this valley. It's like a closed basin for air pollution. And the farmers there are under intense air regulation. They can't move. I mean, you have some truck run through blowing crap out. Nobody can do anything about it, but farmers are stuck there. And I went to a farm of a guy named Don Cameron. Don Cameron grows organic broccoli, organic carrots, regular broccoli, olives, cotton, organic cotton. He showed me his farm plan. It looked like Rube Goldberg on crack. I don't know how he figures it out. He grows everything. I mean, he grows for the market. He doesn't care if it's organic or not organic. He's growing for the market. Anyway, on every one of these irrigation pumps, there was a hole cut in the block. These were too polluting for the California Air Resources Board. He had to pull 30 of these pumps out. It cost him $1 million to replace these pumps. They had a little program. He got $750,000 back. But it was still $250,000 for Don Cameron to stay in business and meet the air quality. We're taking some of our programs. Last 2 years, we've spent $40 million working with people like Cameron, helping them offset these costs. It has had the net effect of removing more than 500,000 cars from the California roads every single year by switching out to cleaner engines and helping people like Don Cameron stay in business. We keep it up for a couple more years, we're going to be just fine on ag meeting any air quality laws. Can anybody tell me what fish this is? I always get a varying reaction. It's a grayling. Okay, Smarty, what kind of grayling? It's a fluvial Arctic grayling. Fluvial just means it lives in a river. We have lots and lots and lots of lake grayling, but we only have one fluvial Arctic grayling left in the lower 48, and it used to be throughout the upper Missouri watershed, and now it is down to one 50-mile stretch between Wisdom and Jackson, Montana. That's it. 50-mile stretch, that's it. So, we're taking our programs and trying to do some stuff about it. The area here, this is the Big Hole River. This is the only place they exist in the world in that Montana. And this is really high. This is like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 feet. When you're at 7,000 feet, summer comes on a weekend. Anyway, this is a fairly typical small operator cow-calf guy. I only think he had like 150 cow-calf. You see the white fence back there? That's where the Big Hole is, and he's actually diverting part of the Big Hole River through his lot here. Can anybody tell me what this horizontal dark bar is in the foreground? It would be manure. That's how we clean it out. You divert the river, you wash the stuff down. I gotta look at this guy, what are you doing, man? This is not good for the fluvial Arctic grilling. So we're taking some of your money, and we worked with this producer who's very cooperative, and a lot of it relates to what you don't know. And a new feedlot. If you look at the distant blue line, that's where the Big Hole River is. He's got a better situation for his cows. It's a mile away from the Big Hole, and it's probably a whole lot better for the fluvial Arctic grayling. We're also doing stuff like this. We had all sorts of these. This is fairly typical Western water diversion. Creek comes down, gets diverted into the concrete thing, goes through an open canal. Trout really don't know if they're in the stream or they're in a canal until they run out of water and start flopping around. And plus, it's a major league maintenance headache for the producer because they got to clean this thing out all the time. Well, these are being replaced with these. There's a perforated pipe under there, and rancher gets his water rights, cows get their waters, the fluvial Arctic grayling and the trout seem to like it as well. And it looks a hell of a lot better. Indiana, this is a runoff from a cornfield. Looks like that today. This is a abandoned poultry barn in Delaware. And of course, this is back to the Chesapeake Bay. We're taking our programs, we're actually disassembling them, grinding them up, and incorporating them in the top 18 inches of soil. Nevada after wildfire. 2 years later. New Hampshire. I don't know what you do there. Looks like that today. Coral reefs. Coral reefs, 0.1% of the ocean floor, and yet they support 25% of the life in the oceans of this nation. Right now, 58 to 70% of our coral reefs are under threat because of human activity. These things are dying. They're dying. So we're trying to do a little project down in Puerto Rico. Well, we did it a couple years ago in Guanica Bay. Guanica Bay went from a 25% coral reef cover in the bay, and in less than 8 years it dropped to 10%. And we got pretty alarmed over it, and we started working with the producers in the uplands. And again, virtually everything we do is with partnerships. Fish and Wildlife Service helped us a great deal in this particular area, and we actually had 33 small coffee growers sign up. They're converting to shade-grown coffee, so they hope to get a premium from shade-grown because it's bird-friendly and better for the environment. And what it means is going to be a substantial reduction in sediment going to the Guanica Bay. Fish and Wildlife Service gave me these next 3 slides. I don't have them from Guanica Bay yet, but this will be what is occurring there. First year it's going to look like this as the slopes are planted. 2 years later it will look like that. And 5 years later it'll look like that. We've since moved this technology out to Hawaii, and we're going to be doing something in the Big Island in a watershed there that's a similar coral reef issue. This is in the Blackfoot Valley of Montana. If you ever go to the Blackfoot Valley of Montana, you want to go to a town named Ovando. And if you go to Ovando, you either want to go to Trixie's or the Stray Bullet, because they have very ice-cold value-added barley products there. So I've been told. But this is on the Jacobson Ranch. This is a spring creek, meaning it runs at 3, 4, 5 cubic feet per second all year round. Okay, ice cold, wonderful habitat, used to be the home of the bull trout, and it become degraded over years. Using the Roskin method, working with the Jacobson, and now it looks like that. 2 years ago, bull trout came back. We can bring them back, and we can bring them back in harmony with agricultural production. This is Michigan, lovely. This was actually runoff from a Superfund site that they contracted with us to do. This is chock full of cadmium and all kinds of heavy metals. Looks like that today. Heavy use area. This is a limited resource farmer in Tennessee. Guy doesn't have 2 nickels to rub together, just barely making it. Cows in this area are up to their hocks in mud. Put a heavy use area in. And the key thing here is there's a creek on the other side. Better for the producer, better for the cows, better for the water quality. This is another Michigan, and I want you to look at the right-hand side. You'll see the side of the barn. We put a heavy use area in. This was an eroding pasture. Looks like that today. I just tossed this one in. This has nothing to do with precision ag, but I kind of like it because it's cool. What you're seeing here is old versus new. This is in Utah, and this is a center pivot irrigation system. It has a generator fueled by diesel fuel. This producer, we worked with this producer, and we put these little fins into the pipe. This is a gravity feed pipe. We were able to move the point of diversion 50 feet up the hill, which gave enough head for the water. And as the water runs down, these fins spin and generates their own electricity, enough to power the center pivot. So this is the old stuff. When when diesel fuel was $4 a gallon, it was costing this producer $15,000 a year to irrigate his crop, to buy the fuel. The new system costs $15,000 to install, and it costs 50 cents a day to operate. Now, which is better for the producer, which is better for long-term on energy? This is Omak Creek, Washington. In the early 1900s, about 1920, people that look like me, or same color as me, are building a railroad through there to take out timber. And they really don't give a rip about the Colville Indian tribe. And they're blasting dynamite, and these huge rocks fall in this gorge. This gorge is 150, 200 feet deep, and it blocks the only pathway for coho and steelhead salmon to reach the reservation. So since 1920, there has not been any salmon come back to the Colville Reservation. So using one of our programs, looks like that today. 3 years ago, 9 steelhead came back. 2 years ago, 35 came back. Last year I went there and I was on a stream bank ceremony with the tribe and the elders, and they were giving thanks. Over 200 came back. We can bring them back. We can bring them back in harmony with ag production. Don't let anybody tell you different. This looks like crap. Does anybody know what a black bear is? You guys don't get out very much. There's lots of black bears in the United States of America, probably more than we'd like some places. But there is one subspecies of the black bear that's called the Louisiana black bear, kind of a swamp bear. And it is on the threatened and endangered list. And a few years ago, we took the Wetland Reserve Program, which you've heard mentioned a couple times today, and in Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, we tried to stitch together, working with partners, can we make some corridors for these bears to move? Can we get them back down to where the habitat is? This particular site is a Wetland Reserve Program easement. It's a restored wetland. It had been a soybean cotton field. It's about 10 years old. It looks like junk to us, but there was a mama black bear from Arkansas who was radio tagged, wandered down. I guess she swam across the Mississippi River, but she found this place, and it didn't look like crap to her. It looked like home. And in the year of our Lord, 2007, this little baby girl was born on that site. But wait, there's more. Because she was joined shortly thereafter by her little baby sister. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the first 2 Louisiana black bears born in the Delta of Mississippi in more than 3 decades. We can bring them back. We can bring them back in harmony with ag production. But wait, there's more. The gentleman who owns this has a trail camera set up, and in 2010, soon to be 2 years ago, this picture was triggered. And this is a mama black bear with 2 babies. This mama you see is one of those little girls you previously saw. The babies are having babies. We bring them back. And today, this is not an uncommon sight in Mississippi. The black bear population is coming back from the brink of extinction. We can bring them back. Who remembers Deepwater Horizon? A couple of you? Remember looking at CNN or some of those cable channels, they just show this, those plumes underwater were just squirting out. You go, oh my God, horrible. And we saw stuff like that. But in addition to Deepwater Horizon, these southern states were having an extreme drought. We had 5 severe, 1 extreme drought region in the Gulf Coast states. And I can remember it was on a Sunday. I got a call from our state director in Texas. He says, hey, I'm here at this Ducks Unlimited meeting, and I think we ought to talk to these guys. And I said, well, let's talk to them. And what they were saying, Ducks Unlimited and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, I'm not doing very good at this, am I? I got to keep my head down. Said, listen, we have a problem because this fall we're going to have 50 million migratory birds flying south, and every single one of them is flying right into Deepwater Horizon. And on top of that, our natural wetlands are drying up. Where are we going to have it? Where are these birds going to go? If the wetlands that we have left are going to be nothing but kill sinks, because that's the only place they can go. So we ask our farmers, would you be willing to work with us to create what we were going to call instant wetlands? We're going to take a regular field, rice field, corn, cotton, we didn't really care, and will you flood it up for us and keep it flooded over winter, and then next spring you can go back to farming it. But we need these instant wetlands. And we cobbled together some money, and we thought, well, maybe we can get 100,000 acres. Well, the response was overwhelming. In Louisiana, we actually had a couple of offices where the producers were lined up outside the door and around the block. It was kind of like the Star Wars premiere when you were a kid. It was absolutely stunning. So we had 1 million acres offered. So then I had to go back, and I'm begging for money from the states, other states. I'm calling Donna and saying, Don, you got any WIP or EQIP money you could share with us? And we were able to cobble together about $40 million and to put it into these things. But the precision part comes here. It just wasn't scattered. The darker green is our high priority. The lighter green was the lower priority. And you can see it tracks the river and then, of course, over into Texas, because you've got a lot of birds there that are going to rest up before they fly to South America. And similarly, we picked up a little bit of the Atlantic flyway, and it's mostly for these migratory songbirds that are going to make that trek. Give them a place to rest. Give them some food. Let them slow down. And this is kind of how it worked. This is Dexter, Missouri. You disc up whatever was left there. You would flood it. A couple months later, it would look like that. And this next is from Louisiana, one of the sites, the instant wetland sites. We can bring them back. We can bring them back in harmony with ag production. This was all working lands. The lands that provided the home and habitat for these birds is now growing rice, soybeans, and cotton. These are compatible uses for us. I want to close in 2002, I was loaned to Senator Lugar for the Farm Bill, and working on the conservation title. And at this point, this was before 9/11. This was before. Shit. Did somebody tell me? So this is before 9/11. And this is before anthrax is sent to Senator Daschle's office and shuts down the Hart building. And at that point in time in the Farm Bill, you could generally get out of there early. I mean, when it gets to the intense things, you stay there virtually all the time. But at that point in time, I lived in Fredericksburg, Virginia, which is about 50 miles from D.C. It was a horrible commute. But I took the Amtrak. Amtrak was at Union Station, and I love Amtrak. So one day, but the last Amtrak train out left at 7 p.m. So one day I looked up, and it was like 10 minutes till 7. Oh my God, threw a bunch of stuff in a briefcase and went run. If you've ever been on the hill, it is a hill. You're on the north side, you run down the hill, you cross about 18 lanes of traffic. Long story short, I just barely made the train before it pulled out. And I'm sitting there, I'm just hot, and I'm sweaty, and heart's beating real fast. And then it occurs to me, the reason I like Amtrak is they have a thing called a cafe car. And the cafe car serves value-added barley products. So I said, I think I'll have one of those on the way back to Fredericksburg. So I walked back to the cafe car. And there's a person in front of me, and I'm waiting in line, and it's a little girl. She's ordering a bunch of stuff. And I look closer at this little girl, and I notice that she is a Down syndrome child. And she's ordering various things, and the lady behind the counter is putting it all there. And she gets done ordering, and the Amtrak lady tallies it all up, and she said, that'll be $6.37. And I see this little girl's hand come up, and in her hand is $2, and there's a little skiff of change, not nearly enough. And she gives it to the lady and looks up at her. And I don't know if you know Down syndrome people, but they're wonderful, trusting, loving, far better than I will ever be. And she said, is this enough? And the Amtrak lady took her money and she counted it out. And then this unionized Amtrak person looks down at that little girl and she said, yes, honey, this is exactly right. And I would submit to you that that lady did that which is right. And as we look at our environmental issues today, it is our task to do that which is right. There is no one else to call upon. This is happening on our watch, and it's up to every single one of us to get up, to try hard. You get kicked, you get back up, to do what's right for the environment, for each other, and for those little Americans who will surely follow us. Thank you very much.